Hello. So, I couldn't actually find a cat shirt to wear for this video, so I just have Sylveon. Um, who is, I mean, Sylveon is kind of a cat. It's a little bit based off of a cat. Some of the evolutions look like cats, some of them look like dogs. Just depends on which one you want to compare him to on any given day of the week. Sylveon, I guess, kind of seems a little more cat-like to a degree. Um, Uh, but cat is relevant because I'm talking about The Cat Returns. In regards to Miyazaki movies and Studio Ghibli movies. Um, well, it's technically not Miyazaki because he's not the director. It's actually Hiroyuki Morita, who's actually the director of it. So, um, in regards to the kind of development of this movie, The Cat Returns came out in 2002. And it was designed to originally be this 20-minute short that was going to be kind of this promotion for a theme park. But there was like a cat themed theme park starring Moon, as in like the cat that was, Moon, Muta, that was the big white fat cat in Whisper of the Heart. And they had actually gotten in contact with the writer of the Whisper of the Heart, with the original manga of it that the movie was based on, Aoi Hiragi, who was the one that wrote Whisper of the Heart initially, and then they based the movie off of her story, which I went over more when I talked about Whisper of the Heart. So they got in contact with her, and she really liked the idea. So she ended up kind of writing this little bit of an idea for it, and she decided to write it as this story that was being written by Shizuku. So it's supposed to be this whole thing of like, it's several years later or whatever, Shizuku has grown up and she has now written this story. And so kind of The Cat Returns is a little bit of like this, kind of one of the only slight sequel movies that Ghibli has ever done, because pretty much all of the other movies don't really have a sequel set up in them in regards to um, anything that can be like a true sequel. And even this is not a 100% a true sequel, because like Shizuku is not in this, and another, there is the big fat cat that is Muta, that is based off of Moon, and that still leads a girl on a similar kind of chase and everything like that, and the Baron is in it, and everything. So there is kind of this like connection there to it. But it's really the only thing close to a sequel that Studio Ghibli has ever done. Yes, there's like similar characters that pop up in different movies, like similar character designs that pop up, or like the soot sprites pop up in both My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away, but they're not really sequels of each other. By the way, as of the time that this is being recorded and will be going out, I have now seen The Boy and the Heron, and it was beautiful. But do not expect me to do a review of it until after I've seen it again, which probably won't happen until it's gone to streaming, which will be on Max at some point in time. And then I will watch it again, and then I will be able to do a review of it, because it's a lot to take in the first sitting, and I want to make sure that I don't miss anything when I do the review. But my dad and I very much enjoyed it. We saw it on New Year's Eve, and we very, very much enjoyed it. So going into The Cat Returns. So the way that it opens is we just have like this little picture of what ends up being the Cat Bureau. Tells us, or it's told us that it's the Cat Bureau later on, but we get this voiceover from the Baron, and of course they have Cary Elwes come back and voice him in the English dub, which is I love. I love Cary Elwes. He's amazing. And he's like, so if you find yourself troubled by something mysterious or a problem that's hard to solve, there's a place you can go where you always find help. You just need to look for it. And that's the opening bit of the movie, and we see the Cat Bureau, and we see the statue of the Baron there. So this is already kind of setting it up for anyone that's seen Whisper of the Heart, knows that there's this connection there. And then we go into the start of the movie where we meet this young girl, this teenage girl whose name is Haru, and she just does not have a good day to start out with. She's late getting up even though she set her alarm clock. She doesn't get to have breakfast because, you know, she's already running late. And and I'm going to point this out now, in the English dub, which is, of course, the one that I've watched. Nothing against the Japanese dub or the Japanese original, but this helps better when I'm trying to do the review. Anne Hathaway plays Haru in this, and the moment where Haru is running out of a room, comes back, checks herself in the mirror, fixes her skirt, and runs out. I love Princess Diaries, the Princess Diaries movies from Disney that, you know, with Anne Hathaway as Princess Mia. And at some point I will do reviews of both of those movies. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I find this very funny that this is very similar to what happens in Princess Diaries, where Mia is just like looking in the mirror and she's like, well, this is as good as it's gonna get. And then she leaves for school. But in this one, it's just like Haru is just like, oh well, and then goes off. So it's just like, that's very similar there. And it's not like they would have had Anne Hathaway cast for the English dub of this already at this point in time. So it's just, that's just kind of funny. But what happens is Haru is just running late, and we see her and her mom interact, and her mom is kind of teasing her that she doesn't get to have breakfast, but the mom does. So Haru's like running out of the house, and she's like running to school, and as she's running to school, she drops her shoe falls off, so she has to wait as all these men run by before she can get to her shoe, because there's like, I guess, a running club or a track club out doing, you know, morning exercise, so she has to wait to get her shoe. She keeps getting caught on branches. She eventually makes it to the school, but she is late, and she's trying to sneak into class. But the teacher is just like, yeah, Haru, yeah, we can all see you. Just get to your seat. And she goes, you know, she's just like embarrassed. And unfortunately, her crush in the class, who is supposed to be this like really cool guy, I do not remember his name. It's not important. His name is not important. And he kind of laughs at her too, and she's just like even more embarrassed about it and everything. And then we're introduced to her friend. Then we're introduced to Haru's best friend, who is Hiromi, and her, you know. So we're introduced to her, and then there's this moment on the top of the building, on the top of the school, where they're just like looking out. I'm assuming it's like lunchtime or something like that, and they're just like standing there, you know, looking out over the thing, and then Haru gets hit in the head with a volleyball, and everything like that, and we get the title of the movie. And then, you know, later that day when they're on their way home, first off, we are introduced to this very beautiful black cat that has heterochronia, has one blue eye and one, I think it's reddish brown or just a red eye. And he comes out of this shop, and he has this like package with a bow on it, and he's carrying it. And then we see Haru and Hiromi talking, and Hiromi asks Haru why she doesn't like, you know, why she was so upset about being embarrassed this morning, and or like why she likes, you know, the guy she has a crush on. And Haru's just like, I just think he's so darn cool. And so they just start laughing at each other and everything like that. And, you know, the way that friends do, the way that best friends can, you know, joke with each other and everything. And what ends up happening is, you know, Haru is just complaining. She's like, I hate this, humiliated in front of the whole class. Machida was laughing too. I noticed that. Why? What's wrong with me? It must be some kind of omen. Something even worse is going to happen and everything like that. So she's just like really upset about that to a degree. And her and her friend are joking, and then the cat just like walks between them, and they're just like kind of befuddled by the cat. And it's just like, okay. Now, to be fair, I do not know exactly how prevalent cats are in Japan. I know that, you know, like with most countries, there are cats, stray cats, that just roam around, and such. And I know that, you know, that's a little bit more tolerated, I guess, than stray dogs in a lot of countries. But I don't know how prevalent stray cats are that roam around in Japan or not. Um, but they watch this cat, and the cat is trying to um, cross the street at not the right spot, and there ends up, this truck starts coming, and Haru ends up just grabbing her friend's lacrosse stick that, I guess her friend, I guess Hiromi plays lacrosse or whatever, but grabs the stick, runs into the street, and scoops up the cat and the present, scoops them up, man, as the truck is like almost about to hit them, scoops up the cat, and of course we go into the slow motion moment, and scoops up the cat and manages to get both of them out of the street, and they're both fine, but they kind of fell into the bushes area or whatever, and the guy in the truck just drives off, doesn't stop. And then while Haru is kind of like shaking her head to kind of get back into her own headspace or whatever, she looks over and she sees that the cat is standing up and like dusting himself off and everything like that, like a human does, like on two legs and everything. And Haru is just like, huh? I mean, like, I would do the same thing. And what ends up happening is the cat, who we find out very shortly that the cat is actually the prince of the cat kingdom. His name is Prince Loon. And I'm assuming Loon is supposed to be a reference to like the moon. I'm assuming. And what ends up happening is he's like, oh, I thank you very much for helping me, and I promise to return and thank you properly later, but I need to go now. And he takes the little present box and he goes off, and Haru is just like, what happened? She's just like befuddled, like the engine is trying to start the brain and it's not working. And her friend Hiromi comes over and she's like, well, you broke the stick, but you saved the cat. And Haru goes, the cat talked. It talked to me. And Hiromi's like, did you hit your head or something? And Haru was just like, I mean, wild imagination notwithstanding, I would be worried if I thought a cat was talking to me. So Haru goes home, and we get a little bit more introduction to her mom. And the mom makes quilts, but I don't know exactly, and we never learned anything about Haru's father, so I'm assuming either her father is dead or her parents are divorced or something, I don't know. And bear in mind, most Miyazaki movies, Whisper of the Heart takes place at the time frame that it's made in. Like, it takes place in the 80s going into the 90s. And this is, The Cat Return takes place, it's comes out in 2002, and it takes place within, like, that time frame of the early 2000s range. So, all of that. So it's not like it's way in the past, like The Boy and the Heron and Grave of the Fireflies and stuff like that. That all takes place in the 40s during World War II, whereas Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky take place in like some far off dystopian future to a degree. So bits of difference going on there. And what ends up happening is Haru gets home and we're introduced to her mom a little bit more. And the mom makes quilts, and I don't know if that's her job, but she's like got quilt pattern all over the floor, and she's like flustered with that. And Haru comes in and she's like, hi mom, I'm home. And the mom's like, this quilt I'm working on is a disaster. I'm sorry. Can you please make dinner tonight? And Haru just kind of goes, Mom, do you think cats can talk? And the mom just kind of like, sure, why not? And it's like looking at the fabric, pauses. What? Like, just looks up. Wait, what? Cats talk. What? So then we cut to that night while they're eating dinner, and Haru's mom, who I don't think we ever get a name on Haru's mom. She's just Haru's mom. Also, I love the little details that we get about this because, like, we see that the mom makes quilts, and on Haru's bed is a very nice quilt that her mother probably made. Haru also has like this stuffed animal that's on her floor that also looks like it's made of like a quilt pattern. So it's just like the mom made those for her. It's just like the backstory that I have in my head, um, for my own purposes. And I think even the mom has like a nice quilt, but it's not as, intricately designed. So it's just like I like that we see this stuff there in regards to, the mom has made this stuff for them and everything like that. They're like personal touches that the mom has made, which is just something that I like. So we cut to that night where they're eating dinner, and Haru's mom is just like, well, talking cats, you told me once when you were a little girl that you could talk to cats. And Haru ends up having this memory that I guess is like a dormant memory where she's like, walking down the street when she's probably in elementary school, and she's eating like these fish crackers. I don't know if these are just crackers that are shaped like fish. I don't know if these are shaped like fish and they taste like fish. I don't know. But they taste good, and Haru likes them, and she's being followed by this little kitten that is just very dirty. And Haru like stops, sees the kitten, and she, bends down, and she, gives the, kneels down, and she like gives the kitten a couple of crackers, and then, she's like petting the kitten and talking to the kitten, and the cat is just meowing at her. We're not getting like the cat's not actually verbalizing anything. And then Haru just like gives the little kitten, like the rest of the box of the treats, so that way the kitten is not starving anymore. And so it's like we just get this nice little interaction where it's just like it's this moment of kindness that Haru does for this little kitten, to try to help make sure that that the cat isn't starving and everything like that. And Haru is kind of having this one-sided conversation with the kitten who keeps meowing at her and everything, and it's just adorable. And the kitten's gobbling up the fish crackers and everything. And then Haru's mom shows up, and Haru runs over to her mom. Okay, thing I have to point out in the background of this: Haru's mom in the flashback looks much more like she's dressed like a businesswoman because she's wearing like a skirt suit type thing, like a woman's business suit type thing. And looks a bit more put together. And then we have the lady that's the quilt lady, and I'm like, I'm missing something here. I want the backstory of Haru's mother. I want to know what the backstory is here. I don't know if there's ever any way of getting that, but I just find that hilarious. And then Haru, we jump back to the present where she's talking to her mother, and the mother is just like, yeah, you said that the kitten told you that sometimes life is hard. And Haru's like, huh. And that night, Haru goes to bed, hopefully try to get up at the right time the next day so she's not late for school. And she goes to bed, and then several hours later, I'm assuming around midnight or whatever, we start hearing like these, this procession of cats starts to appear, and there's like, this musical procession that's going on as well around them and everything like that. And it's all these cats walking on two legs and everything like that, and these lanterns and like all this other stuff. There's even bodyguard cats that look like they're wearing suits, which is just kind of funny. And like the stray cats in the neighborhood, I guess, I don't know if they're trying to attack the cats that are part of the procession or if they're just being annoying, and the bodyguard cats are like getting rid of them. And then we see like the one cat, the big cat that's being carried on like, not the hearse, but the pedestal, the pram, whatever it's called, that that they would carry like kings and queens on and stuff like that and everything. So there's this big, really fuzzy, really fluffy cat being carried on that. And Haru wakes up because she hears all this noise, and she goes outside and she sees all of these cats showing up outside of her house. And she like is trying to like hide behind like one of the pillar fence things by their house as she's watching this. And then there's the one cat that is, I guess, supposed to be like the king's assistant, royal vizier, whatever he is. I think he's like the cat version of like the prime minister, I think is what it says here in my notes. And he like kind of gets Haru to come out so he can talk to her, and he's like, we are representatives of the cat kingdom, and we would like to we'd like to thank you for saving our today, for saving our prince Loon and everything like that. and we would like to thank you formally for this, and even the Cat King has come here to thank you and everything like that. The king of Cat Kingdom, the Cat King. I'm like, the Cat King needs a better name. But the Cat King is just like, thanks, babe. Okay, I mean, I'll go over the cast again at the end of this. Tim Curry plays the Cat King, and it's hilarious, and I love it. And he is just perfect in this role because he just gets to be so laid back at various points, and then he just gets very angry at various points, and it's just so funny watching him. And that's just really funny, and I love it. And the Cat King just like acts so laid back for a good chunk of the movie, and all of that. And so what ends up happening is, the Prime Minister is just like, and Haru's like, well, you're welcome. I'm glad I saved your prince. And they're like, and then they have this other cat that pops up with like this scroll to give to Haru. It's like, this scroll is a list of presents that you will receive, tomorrow, that we will shower upon you. And they're very wonderful presents and everything like that, and gifts and everything. And Haru's like, thank you. And like takes it and goes back inside, and like the rest of the cats just like finish their procession and disappear. Haru wakes up the next morning, thinks she just dreamt the whole thing, and ends up getting a call from her friend, from Hiromi, and Hiromi is just like, what? But do you know anything about this? And Haru's like, no, I just woke up. What's going on? And outside of Hiromi's apartment are all of these lacrosse sticks, just like so many lacrosse sticks outside of her door. And I'm like, okay, where did the cats get all the lacrosse sticks? Did they raid the local sports shops and steal all of the lacrosse sticks, and now they're going to put them all outside of Hiromi's house because that could cause a lot of problems for Hiromi? It's like, ma'am, do you know how all of these got here? Hiromi, no, I don't. I really don't. I didn't put them here. I don't know where they came from. They just appeared here. That's gonna be an interesting police report. So like all the shops. I would like to report a theft. What? All of our lacrosse sticks are gone. That's the fourth sports center in the last hour that's called to tell us that all of their lacrosse sticks have been stolen, type of thing. And it's just like, Hiromi, I would like to report, I don't know if it's a crime, but it's definitely an inconvenience. What happened? I woke up this morning and there was a whole bunch of lacrosse sticks outside of the door of my apartment. And I don't just mean a couple. I mean several dozen to maybe 100 lacrosse sticks just piled up outside of the apartment door. And I have no idea where they came from. So I'm just like, I don't know. Side story there we never hear about. Where did the lacrosse sticks come from? And Haru gets up and she gets downstairs, and she hears her mother gasp, and the mom is like looking outside, and like their backyard has been filled with just their whole yard has been filled with like cattails, the plant, the cattails and everything like that, which Haru is allergic to, unfortunately. So she's like sniffling and sneezing, and like the mom is just like, oh god, I have no idea what this is, but I'm going back to bed. And I'm like, yeah, that's what my mom would do. So that happens. Haru starts running on her way to school, and as she's running on her way to school, all of the cats in the neighborhood start chasing after her. And it's revealed that she has like catnip in her pockets and everything like that. And she also still has the scroll that she got from the cats the previous night, which she's like, by the time she gets to school, she's like just has all of these cats running after her. And as she's like running into the campus, and one of the teachers is like, you can't have pets on school, and she's like, they're not mine. And she's like runs into the school itself, and she gets to like their locker setup, and she's like opens her locker, which is just overflowing with little presents, and she opens it, and like out tumble all these little like boxes, and then there's mice in the boxes, which would freak me the heck out. And I don't necessarily get freaked out by mice, but it's like all of those falling out of my locker at the same time, and why are they gift wrapped? And I am very disturbed and everything like that. And Haru is screaming about that, and then all of the cats come in and they start attacking the mice. So Haru is just like caught in the middle of all of this, with like the cats attacking the mice and the mice trying to scurry away and all of that stuff. So that's happening, and eventually Haru does make it into her classroom, and she's just like, "Oh God, I didn't dream it last night. Those cats were real." And she pulls out the scroll, and she starts reading over the scroll, and it's like, okay, so there's the lacrosse sticks, there's the cattails, there's the catnip, there's the mice, there's the, and then there's like this other little, symbol at the end of it that's this cat with a crown on it. And she's like, what is going on with this? And she's like counting over it. And then Hiromi comes over, and she's like, so did you get all the catnip out of your pockets? And she's like, yeah, I got it, it's fine. It was, yeah, someone put them in there, but it's gone now. And then Hiromi's like, okay, so I have a request. I don't know if it's supposed to be Hiromi's boyfriend or if it's just a guy she has a crush on. I think it's her boyfriend. Um, and she's like, so he has a match today, and I really want to go. Would it be okay if you had classroom cleanup duty today, and then like I'll switch with you on a different day or whatever? And Haru's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So Haru is doing cleanup duty, and then she's taking out the trash. And as she's taking out the trash, she ends up seeing Machito, or whatever his name is, who's the guy that she has a crush on, walking by with his girlfriend. And of course, we have like the slow motion thing where it's just like them, with like the slightly feathered light, and just like softer light and everything like that, and him just looking so cute, and Haru just like crushing so hard. And Haru trips and falls and drops the trash all over the place. And guy with the crush she has a crush on does not notice at all. So we have that. And then Haru is just like, ow. And she's like trying to clean everything up, and she's like, God, this is just not going well. And then the king's assistant, who is Natoro, who is the king's assistant, who in the Japanese dub is actually a female. In the Japanese is female, and then in the English dub they make him male. And Haru is trying to clean up the trash, and then she sees him, and he kind of like shouts out to her, and she comes over and she like grabs him on the other side of the fence. She like grabs him, and he's like, so have you liked our gifts? No, I have not. I have not liked the gifts. And she like shouts at him. He's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. We thought the gifts were perfectly marvelous. And she's like, I can't eat them. I don't like mice. I don't eat them. I'm terrified of them. And catnip does nothing for me. And I'm allergic to cattails and everything else. And she's just like, none of that stuff is good gifts for me. And he's like, oh, I am so sorry. We failed. And he's like, the Cat Kingdom has been working so hard to make you so happy. And it's just like, appreciate it. Rethink your methods. Type of thing. And Haru is just like, okay, yeah, okay. I guess that's not necessarily your guys' fault. I've just been having a bad time lately. And we have this whole little conversation between Haru and Natoro. And Natoro is just like, oh, well, what's the problem? And he's just like, he's trying to be like supportive for a moment. And she's like, well, stuff just hasn't been going very well for me and everything like that. And he's like, oh, come on, a pretty girl like you, it should be fine for you. And she's like, oh, thank you, but I'm not really all that pretty and everything like that. And we have like this self-deprecating thing, and he's actually being supportive of her to a degree, and he's kind of listening, kind of being supportive. And then we end up having this moment where he's just like, how about this? How would you like to have your own personal tour of the Kingdom of Cats? And she's like, I guess that would be okay. And he's like, oh, good, wonderful. Also, as your last gift, the king has decided to give you the best honor of all. You will become his daughter-in-law and marry Prince Loon. And Haru just kind of was like, yeah, I don't think I can marry a cat. I don't think that would work very well. And he's like, oh no, don't worry about it. The royal family thinks you're great, so that's all that matters. And Prince Loon is really cool and really nice type of a thing. And bear in mind, Prince Loon is pretty cool. So, we'll see that later on in the movie. But Prince Loon is pretty cool. And Haru is just like, oh, he's cool? And he's like, oh, yeah, he's great and everything like that. And, the Cat Kingdom is so great. And we have this moment where she's just like, well, I could lie around in the sun all day, relax, not have any worries. Maybe I'd fit in better with a bunch of cats. And, she has, that moment there where she's, going down the whole path of, well, I guess I could do that and everything. And he's just like, great, I'll pick you up at sundown and everything like that. And he's like, you know, blah, 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 blah. And he starts running off. And she's like, wait a second, no, I don't want to marry a cat. And she like tries to climb after him, falls, lands in this other pile of, I don't know, whatever it is. It's like construction stuff or old garbage trash stuff or whatever that hasn't been gotten rid of yet. And she like lands there, which is just like, ow. And then she gets up and she has like this little fantasy of like marrying Prince Loon. And it's like him as the cat, it's like him in the cat form, just like dressed in like this little, like, I guess, wedding kimono setup. And then her in the very nice, pretty white wedding kimono, which they look very nice together. And it's just like, I now pronounce you cat and bride. And she's just like, and then we cut back to her on the grass, like, no, 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 I don't want to marry a cat. I don't want to marry a cat. She's like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want this. And I don't blame her. I don't want to marry a cat either. And so she's just like, no, I don't want this. And then she hears this voice start talking to her. And it's just like, Miss Haru, you must go to the cat bureau and everything like that. And so one of the things that I do kind of like about this is like, Nataro has interpreted what Haru was saying as a yes in regards to her wanting to become a, you know, in regards to her wanting to marry Prince Loon, which is not a yes at all. It is not an emphatic yes. It is not even a slight yes. It is a considering it, but not actually wanting it type of a thing. And so he's already run off to go and tell that stuff. And then Haru starts hearing this voice going, Miss Haru, you must go to the cat bureau. They can help you there. You must go to Crossroads and find the fat white cat there and everything like that. And they can help you. And Haru is just like, basically the thought going through her head is, well, my day can't get much worse, so I might as well just go and try to find this fat cat by the crossroads. So she heads off that way. Haru makes her way to the crossroads where she's like looking around trying to find this, you know, big white cat. And eventually she's like muttering to herself while she's walking around and everything like that. And she's like, well, maybe living in a cat kingdom wouldn't be as bad as it sounds or whatever, you know, maybe they won't come and pick me up or whatever. And she like finds her way to just like this, these outdoor cafe tables and everything like that. And she accidentally ends up sitting down on like this big fat white cat, who then like growls at her and everything like that. And she's like, oh my God, are you the cat from the cat bureau that I was told to find? I need help. And like, I guess she says the right thing. And she's like, but the cat just kind of like stares at her. And yes, the cat here that is, this is Muta. He is supposed to be based off of the cat from Whisper of the Heart that was the fat cat there and everything like that. That's like the stray that just kind of lives in the neighborhood area. Muta is supposed to be based off of him, which is just very blatant, very blatantly supposed to be based off of him. And what ends up happening is Haru, I guess maybe you're not the cat. I'm sorry I sat on you and whatever. And she tries to walk off and the cat goes, no, wait, I'll show you. And she's just like, and another one talked. And then she starts following the cat and he like leads her through, like, it's very similar to the moment in Whisper of the Heart where Shizuku is trying to follow the cat, trying to follow Moon, through like the little back alleys and like places, other spaces in between houses and buildings and everything like that. And it's very similar to that moment. And like Haru is like following Muta, and at one point in time she's like, I guess maybe I shouldn't have called him a fatso, as she's climbing after him and everything like that, which, I don't blame her. But one of the things that I do like about this, and this is something that I learned while watching like the behind the scenes documentary, is that, and I don't know where exactly they are in the movie, but there's a few times in the movie where they use themes that they originally used in Whisper of the Heart interweave them into here alongside the new music and the new compositions that they developed for the cat returns. And I'm pretty sure they probably use something similar, because I think like the Baron has a theme in Whisper of the Heart, and I think they have like a new, like I think they have like a new version of the theme in this one as well, and I think they have that as like the Baron's theme. That would make sense for one of them, and then maybe something else here or there, as like the same composition piece that they had in for like the background music and everything like that, for the score that they would have had for Whisper of the Heart in this. But I don't know exactly which versions they are, or where exactly they take place in the movie. But I'm sure someone that has a much more musically attuned ear could probably pick up on that more than I could. But again, I just, just like with any Miyazaki movie for the most part, or any Studio Ghibli movie, I love the soundtrack of this movie anyway. But what ends up happening is, Haru eventually has followed him down whatever different types of side streets and everything like that, and eventually she ends up coming out into this small embankment of like these little shops and everything like that are like, the buildings are about as tall as she is, if not a little bit taller, and they all look like they're part of like out of like, they all look like they're European style buildings, and they're all just like in this circle around her with like this fountain in the middle with a crow at the top, and they all just kind of look like very large versions of doll houses, and there's very beautiful detail on all of them. And now the giant fat cat Muta is now standing up on on his hind legs, and he pulls a newspaper out of the mailbox, and he goes and sits down and starts reading it. And Haru is just like, I was trying to find the cat bureau. Is this where the cat bureau is, and everything like that, and everything like that. And she's just like, what is going on here? And she's like, I need help. The cats from the Cat Kingdom are going to show up in a little while and try to, take me away to their kingdom and everything like that. And she ends up kind of like, as she's talking to Muta, she's talking to the fat cat, she ends up looking into like the window of the shop, and she sees the Baron figurine there. And then at that point in time is when, I guess, and I'm assuming this is something that like the Baron does a lot, because Muta is very annoyed by it, where the way that they have it set up is like, as the sun sets at the right angle, all of the windows in the area, in the circle around them, just start to reflect the light the right way or whatever, and it's like shining in, and like all the light focuses in on the little storefront that is the cat bureau. And like Muta is just like annoyed. It was just like, enough with the cheesy light show, Baron. No one's impressed anymore. And Haru is impressed. Muta is not. And out of the building, the lights die down, and out of the building comes the Baron. Now, as is pointed out, even though this is a sequel to Whisper of the Heart, the Baron in this is, I think, supposed to be a bit younger than the Baron that we see in like the story setup when Shizuku was writing the story in Whisper of the Heart, where she's writing her story about the Baron and everything like that. So this Baron is younger, so he's a little bit more spry than in the other one. But he comes out and he introduces himself. He's like, my name is Baron Humbert von Gickington. The artisan who made me, who created me, gave me that title. And I think that's like one of the same lines that is used in Whisper of the Heart, when she's like writing the story and introducing the Baron in the story. So it's like, it's that very similar setup there. And she's like, I think I'll just call you Baron. And she's just like, you're really cool. And he's like, thank you, and everything like that. So he's like accepting the compliment and everything like that. And like they're talking, and he explains, and this is Muta, the large white cat. And he's like, and Haru's like, where am I? And he's like, well, this is a sanctuary for creations, oddities, different things like that. And like myself and Toto there, and he points over at Toto, who is the crow at the top of the little fountain that they have in the middle of the area. And the crow comes to life and introduces himself and everything like that. And Toto and Muta do not get along with each other. They just argue all the time and insult each other. Toto keeps coming up with like new insults for Muta, but Muta just keeps calling him a bird brain and a chicken. and just going back and forth on both of those. So they're like arguing in the background and everything like that, which is just funny. As Haru is trying to talk to the Baron, and the Baron then ends up inviting her inside into like into the shop area, which she has to like get down on her hands and knees to crawl into, and like she has to like very carefully get inside and everything like that. And the shop is beautifully designed yet again. She's like, you have really great taste, and he's like, thank you. And he's like, makes her tea and everything like that. And he's like, that's my own special blend of tea. It's a little different each time, so I can't guarantee the flavor. And so she drinks it, and she's like, that's the best tea I've ever had. And he's like, well, then you're in luck. I'm assuming that means that there are some days where it does not turn out well. And it's just like, well, you caught it on a lucky day. It turned out pretty good today. Sometimes it doesn't. And at this point in time, Toto and Muta have come inside, and they're just like, still arguing with each other a little bit. But Muta, the Baron asks Muta to tell them what they know about the Cat Kingdom, and he's like, that's a place you shouldn't go unless you have complete confidence in yourself and everything like that. It's like it's a dangerous place to go for that reason. And they asked Haru to explain what happened, and she explains, well, the other day I saved their prince from being hit by a truck, and now they want to repay me by making me their princess. And Muta is just like, well, why don't you just marry the prince? Then you're set for life and everything like that. But it's just like, he's also like, so it's like, that's what you get for like butting your nose in somebody else's business and everything like that. And she's like, what was I supposed to do? Just let him get hit by the truck and everything like that. And Muta is a very crotchety cat. He's a very crotchety, like an old man cat, which is just kind of funny in that regard. And Muta doesn't really want to help her very much, but what ends up happening is Baron is just like, well, I've been meaning to take a visit to the Cat Kingdom at some point in time. And he's like, why don't we go? And Toto is just like, well, you can't expect us to try to bring her there. That's where they want to take her. That would put her in danger. And Baron's like, well, we would either have to take her, or she'd have to stay here and be watched over by Muta. And Muta is like, I am not a babysitter. And Muta is like getting ready to like storm out of the building. Well, first what ends up happening is Haru is kind of like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have tried to involve you guys in this. I'll come up with something else. Maybe I can hide from them, or maybe I can come up with something else so they don't try to take me away. And also, Haru keeps end up making like fat jokes about Muta, and Toto is just like, oh, I like this girl more every minute, because she keeps ragging on Muta again, just the way that he does. And Haru is getting ready to leave, and there ends up being this moment where, like, I guess there's a little bit of, like, I guess Muta feels slightly guilty, and he's like, fine, I guess I can stay here and keep an eye on her, or whatever the case may be. But there's another moment where, like, right after that, where Muta is getting ready to, like, storm out, and he's like, I am not going to do this. And the Baron goes, I have angel food cake. And then we just see this instant change in Muta. He's just like, ooh, where is it? And he, like, goes over to try to find the angel food cake. Which is just funny. I mean, it's like, the angel food cake has no bearing on anything. It's just like, oh, there's cake. Okay, I can help. It's like, Baron knows the right way to get into Muta's heart is through his stomach. So Muta and the Baron are trying to get like the cake ready, and like trying to whip cream and everything like that up so they can make make sure that the cake's all good and everything like that. And Haru is kind of just like, she's like ready to wait for them, and like Toto goes off to try to find, I guess, mulberries. But what ends up happening is there's a knock on the door. They think it's Toto. Haru opens it. It's not Toto. It's Nataro and a bunch of other cats from the Cat Kingdom. They rush into the shop, grab Haru, and pull her out. The Baron and Muta end up running after them. Toto returns, ends up flying after them, trying to help get the Baron and Muta to where they can help Haru, and Haru is being carried on the back of these groups of cats. And on this, Haru and Nataro are being carried on the back of these, like, this group of cats and everything like that. And he's like, oh, good, Miss Haru, we found you. We were worried when we couldn't find you for a moment and everything like that. It's just like, but come on, let's get going to the let's get going to the Cat Kingdom. And she's like, you've just got pre-wedding jitters. And she grabs him again and she goes, no, I do not. Both actresses, both the original Japanese actress and Anne Hathaway, who played Haru in the English dub, have both stated that like Haru does so much gasping and screaming and everything like that, and it's just kind of fun in that regard for like having those moments with Haru. And so Haru is just like, no, I am not having pre-wedding jitters. Get me off of this thing. And at this point in time, like uh, Todo has lifted up Muta and is like dropping him down to try to get to, so that way Muta can be with Haru. Muta, and I think this is premeditated because I think what happens is Baron and Todo know that if Muta gets dropped and gets ignored, he will then chase after them out of being ignored. And what happens is the cats kind of move out of the way, so Muta lands on the ground. Muta is not happy and starts chasing them. And eventually, Haru is able to like pull Muta onto like the cat area, the cat little transport thing that they're doing with all the cats running underneath them. And Natsuo is just like, oh no, we've exceeded our weight limit and everything like that. And while this is happening, the Baron riding on Todo is chasing them. And then we keep getting Portal involved because I keep opening like these magic portals to like let all the cats through and everything like that, so they can try to lose the Baron and Todo as they're being chased. So it's just like popping out of places, and like eventually the Baron does end up losing them, but they're able to like, I guess, follow the trail of magic to where Haru and Muta are being taken to the Cat Kingdom. And when they arrive in the Cat Kingdom, Haru wakes up and she's looking around, and she's like, Muta is so much bigger than her now. And he's like, no, I didn't get bigger. You shrank. And she's like looking around, and like the Cat Kingdom itself is beautiful. It's even stated, this is heaven on earth between scenery and sumptuous food. The whole kingdom is ready to welcome you. There's more. His Majesty is very eager to repay you for saving Prince Lune. You and the prince shall be married, and all of that type of stuff is like, the welcoming thing that Haru is getting. But like Haru and Muta are kind of like look around a little bit, and they get to see some of these other cats that are not in like the castle and everything like that. And they end up running into this very beautiful white cat. And she's like, Miss Haru, you must leave now. This is not a safe place for you, and everything like that. And Haru is like, you're beautiful. You're a beautiful cat, and everything like that. And is like, the cat, her name is Yuki. We get an introduction to her very shortly. Her name is Yuki. And what happens is she's trying to warn Haru to leave. And what ends up happening is at this point in time, this is when Natsuo shows up, and he is sent to bring Muta. And well, first off, he insults Muta. He says like, your fat servant exceeded our weight limit. And Haru and Muta is just like, fat servant? And Haru is just like, no, Muta is a friend. He's not my servant. So then he keeps getting called fat friend instead of fat servant, which is funny. And Haru is, they're getting ready to take Haru to the palace. And at this point in time, like, everybody, all the other cats around them are like bowing to Natsuo because he is like this high-ranked cat, because he's like the king's assistant and everything like that. And Haru asks if Yuki can come with them, and he like kind of looks at her and he's like, and who are you? And she's like, I am Yuki. I serve at the royal table. And he's like, oh, well, she works in the palace, so you'll see her. It's fine. You'll see her later. It's fine. So then Haru and Muta are being carried on like another one of these, pallets and, chairs and everything like that, being carried by other cats toward the palace. And the king has this weird, creepy eyeball camera thing that like floats around, and like it like looks at, it like is like filming Haru as she's showing up. So the king and the prime minister are watching this, and the king is just like, ooh, I'm gonna go talk to my new daughter-in-law and everything like that. And he's like, Tim Curry described him as, he's kind of an unreconstructed hippie. So I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. He just calls everybody babe and everything like that, which is just funny. And the prime minister seems to think that Muta seems familiar, but he can't figure out why. So the king and the prime minister make their way down to go see Muta, or to go see Haru and Muta. And Haru is taken into this dressing room area where she's able to get changed into a very nice dress and everything like that, and they put like this fish necklace on her, and a little fish tiara and everything like that, and it's a very nice dress. I do like the dress. And Muta ends up going into the food area, and it's just like chowing down on so much of the food and everything like that. And so the king and the prime minister arrive, and the prime minister asks Nataro what Muta's name, and he's like, oh well, they said his name was Muta. And it's like, Muta, tell me if you learn anything else about him or whatever, because the prime minister is suspicious, and the king has made his way inside to the dressing room where Haru is. She's all dressed at this point in time. They're just trying to get like the last little details onto her outfits or everything like that, so it's not like she's naked. And she actually has like her school dress on underneath the dress to begin with, underneath the formal dress, because we see her take it off later. So she was never naked to begin with in that regard. But what ends up happening is the king is talking to her, and he's just like, you look beautiful. And she's like, well, that's the thing, is that it's just like, I'm a human, I can't marry a cat, and there must be someone else that's better suited to marry Prince Loon than me, and everything like that. And there was like, oh no, it's fine, welcome to the royal family, babe, and everything like that. And they're and she's like, but I was told you had already consented. And the prime minister's like, that's what I was told. And it's just like, well, she's telling you otherwise right now, and she has the right to change her mind even if she previously consented and everything like that. So she's like not very happy about that. And then she's like, you see, I'm not even really a cat. And they're like, well, you're halfway there already. And there was like a bit in there where we weren't looking at Haru's face. And then we see Haru turn around, look in the mirror, and she has cat ears. She's got fur, and her, she's got the cat ears and fur, and her hands are starting to shift into being paws. And now, the question I have is there, because they put this necklace on her, and after they put the necklace on her is when this transformation starts? Or is this something where it's like she was in the cat kingdom for a little bit already, and that's why she's starting to change? Like, if they didn't put anything on her, would she have begun to start to change into a cat already? Or is it just the fact that she is there that is making her change into a cat? Or is it like an amulet or something like that? I think it's just the fact that she is there to begin with is what's slowly changing her into a cat. So she like freaks out, screams, which is reasonable, and then she runs into the other room where Muta is, screams even louder, because we see that Muta has now ended up inside of this jar, this giant bowl of like catnip jelly. And she's like, no, Muta, I didn't want you to die because of me, please, I'm sorry. And they're like, come on, it's time for the festivities. She's like, no, I'm not leaving him. Oh, we'll bring him anyway. So they like wheel the giant thing of catnip jelly with Muta inside of it out of this room. By the way, the door does not look big enough to fit this thing in or out of it. Wheel that out with Muta in it, and Haru is just like, no, like hanging onto the giant bowl and everything like that. And like they have them set up, and like we get to see like the courtroom area within the castle where they have like these visiting cat dignitaries from like other areas of the world. I guess there's like Egyptian cats and European cats and Asian cats and stuff like that from all different places. And like the cat king has his own area, and then like Haru is like at the table next to him, with like Muta and the giant bowl of catnip jelly behind her. And Haru is just like crying, like still sniffling the whole time. And like they have a cat chef there, and he's just like, I heard you didn't like mice, but I'm sure you can't resist my raw fish. And he gives her like this plate with a raw fish on it. And even at one point in time, she's just like picking up the fish tail and like dropping it back down, and like looking at her hands that are now paws. It's like, and so it's just like Haru is just like very like, Muta's behind her trapped in jelly. She has no idea where the Baron is or Toto. She's turning into a cat, and she has no idea what else is going to happen. So it's like, okay, what part of this can I control right now? I'm not eating the raw fish, and I'm just too emotionally consumed with my friend is possibly dead behind me, and now I'm a cat. Those would be the emotions going through my head, I would assume. And what ends up happening is, the king wants to try to get Haru to smile, so they end up having all these like entertainment come in and start dancing to try to, make Haru happy. And like one of them is like this like little acrobatic routine of cats and everything like that. And like that doesn't make her happy, so they bring in something else that is like, it's like a knife throwing thing, but it's like a cat throwing squids is what it looks like. It's what he's like throwing at this other cat on like the dartboard. And he fails because he throws one of them and it like knocks off the cat girl's top, and so she like kind of like screams and runs out of the room, and everybody else is like kind of offended by this, and he gets the knife throw, the squid throw gets thrown out of the window, which is just funny. Gets chucked out of the window. He's fine. He lands on his feet. He's a cat, but he gets chucked out of the window, and then another cat comes in who is like this he's this pink cat, and I think he's just painted pink, and then he has like all of these different drawings on his body that like from different angles he can make look like different faces and shapes. Like he turns him, looks like a giant face with a bow tie, and like an elephant on his butt and everything like that, with his tail as the trunk and stuff like that. Like Haru is just not paying attention to this. I don't think he gets chucked out of the window because he's not like offending anybody. But there is another cat that is like this European type cat that like just starts laughing, and then he gets chucked out of the window, and like nobody else can come up with anything to try to like like we have this whole other group of performers, and none of them are able to figure out what something to do to try to make Haru laugh. So the king is just like, next one, and out steps this very dapperly dressed, very nice hat, cloak, mask cat comes out, and he's very suave, and he's like, I promise I will make the lady smile. And he walks over to where Haru is, and he asks her for a dance. And she's like, oh no, I'm a meowsy dancer. And it's like, oh no, I'm even talking like a cat. And he's like, it's okay. And like, and she gets up and they start waltzing around. The band area, the orchestra area starts playing a waltz, and we have them like waltzing around the room and everything like that. And Haru kind of starts to like, she feels more at ease with this cat, with this mysterious stranger, than she has with any of the other cats. And while we're seeing all this, we do see Yuki, who is, she's like a waitress at the royal table, so we see her walking around. And then we also see the king is like not, is like trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, something's not right here and everything. So we have that moment. And what ends up happening is Haru and this mysterious stranger are waltzing around, and he's like, I told you before that you need to have confidence in yourself and everything like that. So it's just like, and like he's it's like, it's the Baron in disguise. If you didn't figure that out pretty quickly, you're not paying that much attention. And what ends up happening is the king overhears part of their conversation. There's also a moment while they're dancing where Haru like actually grows whiskers and everything like that, because she's becoming a little bit more of a cat. But like the king overhears part of their conversation, makes them stop dancing, and he demands to know who the stranger is. And the stranger reveals himself to be the Baron, which just makes Haru very happy. And she's like, oh, Baron! And she hugs him and everything like that. And then he's like, the Cat King is just like, attack them. And the Baron uses like his max to like break the bowl that has Muta in it. And he just like slides out of the bowl and like joins the battle. And we have this like moment that's like them just running around and Muta like crashing into the guards and everything like that. And the Baron protecting Haru and everything like that. And they have like the Natsuko is just like ushering all the rest of the guests out of the emergency exit. Like, emergency exit is this way. Have a nice day. Like all of that stuff. And like they get the king out of there and all of that stuff, and his escorts and all that stuff are getting rushed out of the room and all of that. So we have that moment. And what ends up happening is Yuki comes over, and she's like, "Oh, Miss Haru and Baron, I'm so happy that he's here to help you, and I can help get you out of here," and everything like that. As like Muta's like distracting the guards. He's even like hanging from the ceiling at one point on like this chain, and like swinging back and forth as the guards are trying to like attack him and everything like that. So we have like that going on with Muta. And so Yuki shows them the secret passage to get out, which takes them down this big slide and out to where like we see the other two cats that were chucked out of the window. They're sitting over there just like wallowing in their own self-pity. They're both fine. That just reminds me of the scene in The Emperor's New Groove where the old guy gets chucked out of the window and survives. That just reminds me of that. And they escape. And they get out of the castle and everything, and Yuki explains that the doorway to your world is at the top of that tower, and it's this this very, very tall tower, but the only way to get there is through the king's maze. So they're just like, well, that's not gonna go well. That's not gonna be good to deal with. So they're like, okay, and so Yuki goes off, and then Muta comes breaks out of the window and slides down the side of the castle, and he lands by them, and he's just like, whose idea was it to leave me there? And the Baron's just like, it's no time for finger pointing. And Haru's like, yep. It's just like, I'm sorry, Muta, you were the distraction, but you're fine, we're okay. So they have to start making their way through the king's maze. And while this is going on, actually, while they were trying to escape, Haru, got her dress off, so she's just in her regular clothes now. And it's revealed that Haru can still get back to her world, but she needs to get back there before sunrise, otherwise she will permanently be a cat. So they're on a time limit. And while they're going through the maze, she's like, well, we have all day. It's, the sun's still so high in the sky. We've got plenty of time to get there. And and Muta is just like, it's always noon here. And the Baron's like, it's past midnight in your world, and he's like, oh no, that's not good. So Haru's a little bit more on a time frame here to try to get out, on a time clock here to get out. And as they're going through the maze and everything like that, the king, the prime minister, and Natsuro are like watching as all of this is happening, and his, the king's group are watching as this happens. They send guards into the maze to try to act as like diversions, and Muta tries to like climb onto the top of the maze on the wall so that way he can like try to cheat that way, and like one of the guards is like, he's cheating, get him. And so it's like Muta like leads them away and everything like that. And so eventually it leads to where the guards are all lost in the maze, and Haru and Baron and Muta are kind of all back together and everything, and like they're actually making progress through the maze. And it's like, oh, they're like the king and the others are like watching as this is happening. And so there's also a moment earlier on when the Baron like reveals himself at the dance. Natsuro just goes, oh, he's so cool, and the prime minister goes, he is handsome. So it's just like this funny little bit there where they keep like complimenting the Baron, and it's like no one can deny the coolness of the Baron type of a thing. And so like so a bunch of that stuff's happening, like watching as Haru and her group are making their way through the maze, and they end up revealing that they have the king and his group have cats in the maze that are designed to like have pieces of the walls on their back so they can move around and mess up the maze itself, so that way it's harder for people to find their way through. And as Haru and her group are going around, Haru realizes that like, no, wait, there wasn't a wall here before when we walked by this area a moment ago. And Muta's like, you're imagining thing, and she's like, no, I'm not. This was not here. And the Baron looks at the wall and he's like, this wall is fake. And he like punches, he like kicks the wall, and that just makes, because it makes a domino effect, because all of the cats that have the walls on their back have like lined up in a domino setup, which is just kind of silly. And even the prime minister is just like, why did they line up like dominoes? And they all just get like toppled over and lead right to the castle, or right to the tower. And so then they're all just like running over the wall bits that they knocked over as they're and we hear like the cats meowing as they're like being jumped over and everything like that. I'm sure the cats are fine. And the king is not happy about this, so him and his entourage are like running down and everything like that. And the prime minister is trying to make the king stop, and he's just like, we have guards stationed in the tower. And they get to the tower, and what happens is, or Haru's group get to the tower, and Haru is kind of winded. So the Baron and Muta, she tells the Baron and Muta to go on without her. That's not helpful because you're the person that has to get back to the human world. So the Baron runs back, picks up Haru, and was like, Princess carrying her up the tower as they're running. And given the height of this tower, my dad made the comment of, I would be getting vertigo at that point in time. I'm like, yeah, I probably would too. I wouldn't be running up the tower, but I would definitely be carefully walking up the tower and staying near the inside of the tower. So I'm not right on the outside of it, right on the edge. And the prime minister is just like, but sir, we have guards stationed in the tower. Guards show up, try to get to them. The tower part that they're on just kind of crumbles, and then Haru, the Baron, and Muta just kind of make it past that area, and they're just like, I'll have a word with the contractor. There's so many funny lines in this that I love them. And what ends up happening is the king is just like, fine, bring me the detonator for the tower. And the prime minister is just like, no, sir, please don't do it. Please think of your approval ratings. And he is just like, give me the button. He's like, I don't have the button. I didn't bring it. And then Natsuo is just like, here's the button. And it's just like, here you go. And the king takes the button, and he's like, bye-bye, tower. Click. And like Haru and her group have managed to get to like the top section of the tower when it explodes underneath them, so it falls, and they end up all falling inside of it. They end up being fine, but now the tower is so much shorter and everything like that. And the king's group gets there, and Haru and the Baron and Muta are just kind of sitting there, and she's like, and he's like, well, I guess you can always get used to being a cat. And she's like, do I really have to learn to like mice? And everything like that. So it's just like all of that going on right now and everything like that. And the king gets there, and they're just like, come on, come back. We'll get y'all, nice dress again and everything, and we'll get y'all set up to marry the prince and everything. He's like that. And she's like, I don't want to. It's revealed that Prince Lune has shown up, and he said that Yuki got a communication to him, and that, that's why he returned. And he's like, what has father done now? And everything like that. So he's there, and he's, gets to see Haru, and they get the explanation of what's going on. And like the kid's like, well, I wanted to thank her for saving you so you could marry her and have like this beautiful bride and everything like that. And Prince Lune is just like, but I do not wish to marry her. Yes, I'm grateful to her for saving me. Yes, but I do not wish to marry her. I wish to marry Yuki. And they're like, huh? And the Baron is just like off to the side going like, I like this prince more and more. I'm starting to like this prince, and everything. And so we have that moment there, and Lune goes over to Yuki, and he has a little present box that we saw him getting when he was the cat, and he gives it to her, and she opens it. And he's like, I traveled all the way to the human world to get these for you. And she opens it, and inside are the fish crackers that we saw Haru give to the kitten back when she had her little flashback of the kitten. And Haru's like, I remember those. I used to love those when I was a kid. And Yuki looks at her, and she's like, you fed me a whole box of these once when I was a stray, and it allowed me to have enough strength to get here to the cat kingdom. And Haru's like, you were that dirty little kitten all those years ago? You're so beautiful now. And she's like, I'm so glad that you got here and survived and everything like that. So Haru is just very happy about that for Yuki. So Haru is very happy for Yuki and everything. And Haru puts together the fact that, these fish crackers mean that Yuki can marry the prince and not me, and that'll be even better and everything like that. She's like very happy for Yuki and Lune, and she like hugs Yuki and everything. And Lune's like, it's very nice that you saved Yuki when she was a kitten, and then you saved me from getting hit by that truck and everything like that. And you were both very grateful and everything. And at that point in time, so like, Haru is just very happy that they're going to get to be together and everything like that. And at that point in time, the king is just like, oh, well, I guess that, I'm so happy that you're happy with this girl, Prince, that you're happy with Yuki, Prince Lune and everything like that. Why didn't you tell me you already had a bride picked out? And I'm pretty sure the prince is like, because I knew you wouldn't approve, is probably what's going through his head. And the king at that point just like looks at Haru and he's just like, well, you must feel bad about this. And Haru's like, no, not really. And she's like, I didn't want to get married anyways. Like, what's going through her head? And he's just like, how about this? You can come back and you can marry me, and I'll get you some fish to in as a representation of my undying love and everything like that. She's like, no. And she gets very angry and she starts shouting at him. And she's like, I would never, ever, ever marry you, and everything like that. And he just like gets knocked over and he's like, was that a no? And Muta is just like, I take it you're not ready to get married yet? And Haru goes, nope. And he is just like, well, in that case, I always like a girl who, always like a woman who stands up for herself, even if she puts her nose in other people's business. And he's like, and that's why I, Ronaldo Moon, will support you and everything like that. And at the mention of Ronaldo Moon, that makes everybody else is just like, oh no, Ronaldo Moon? You mean the monster and everything like that? And the king's like, what's going on? And, who's that? And then Prime Minister goes, what? Have you forgotten, sire? The most notorious crime in the kingdom's history. A huge cat appeared suddenly, devoured all the fish in the lake, and escaped. That was Ronaldo Moon, criminal of the century. And the Baron looks at Muta and he's just like, did you really do that? And Muta is just like, yep, and I do it again, and now I'm gonna eat the whole castle and everything like that. So it's just like he starts attacking the guards that are from the king, because the king tries to attack. And then we have Loon's guards attack, and they're trying to fight off against the king's guards and everything like that. So that way the Baron can try to get Haru to safety, to get her back to her world. And he explains, well, so the tower moved, but the portal is still at the top of the tower. So if you get up there, you can climb out and you'll be back in the human world and everything like that. And they're like, okay. And, Muta picks up Haru, spins her around, throws her up, and she lands on one of the higher steps so she can start climbing and everything. And while that's going on, the Baron is running after her. Muta is fighting against the other cats and everything like that. And Yuki and Loon are leaving, and then the king grabs two swords and starts climbing up the side of the tower, where he eventually ends up coming across the Baron, and he basically challenges the Baron to like a sword fight, which does not end well for the Baron, or does not end well for the king, because they do it's a single strike each, and the Baron ends up cracking the jewel that's on top of the king's head. And then a bunch of the king's fur falls off, which is just funny. And the king is just like, I heard stories about a pesky little cat statue that helps people solve their problems. I thought you were just a little kitschy knick-knack sitting on some shelf gathering dust. If I'd known you were this good, I would have hired you years ago. And the Baron is just like, no, I like sticking my nose in other people's business and everything like that. And he heads off to go help Haru, and Haru does manage to make it to the top of the castle, or top of the tower, and she climbs out. And she's on top of the tower, and as she's the sun is coming up as starting to come up as she's changing back into her human form and getting much, much bigger, back to her real size and everything like that. And while this is going on, Loon, Yuki, Nataro, and several others are watching this, watching what's going on, and they're like, oh good, she's back to the human world, and she's human again, and everything like that. And she screams because the tower is now in a very different spot, so everything is moved, so she's just kind of standing there in midair on top of this portal that leads to and from, the Cat Kingdom into the real world and back and forth. And she's now very, very tall and very, full size again on top of this very small tower hole, and she falls. Muta thankfully gets his way up there, grabs her, is trying to prevent her from falling. They both fall out of the tower, unfortunately, and the Baron ends up, getting after them and ends up catching up with them in the free fall, and they end up, falling, and he's like, catches up to them, and he's like, spread your arms and everything, and it's like, so we get this moment where they're all falling and their arms are, they're all kind of spread out. And the Baron is calm to a degree. But, so it's like they're all falling and everything, and the sun is rising as this is happening. And she's like, I could get used to this, but I really don't want to hit the ground. And then out comes this huge flock of crows that are all of these friends of Todo. So they're just helping. they start acting as like this crow version of a staircase, so that way Haru, Muta, and the Baron can all like walk down the crows as, you know, they make their way back to Haru's school, where they drop off Haru and her group. And she's like, I hope we're not too heavy. And Toto's like, oh no, you're as light as a feather. I'm just glad I had enough friends in the area willing to help. And everything. So they get down to Haru's school and they drop her off there and everything on the top of the building. And she's like, yeah, I can get home from here and everything like that. And she's like, thank you so much for helping me. And she says goodbye to Muta and Toto. And then she tells the Baron, you know, Baron, I think I may have a bit of a crush on you. And he's like, I always like a girl who speaks her mind. And remember, if you ever need to find us again, you'll always know where we are. So it's just like, if you're ever in trouble again, you can always find the Cat Bureau again. Since you've been there once before, you can find us again. And, you know, so they say goodbye to Haru and everything, and the three of them fly off. You know, Toto picks up Muta and carries him, and the Baron's riding on Toto's back and everything. And they're, again, Muta and Toto are arguing again and all of that stuff. So they're just like, you know, going through all of that, and Haru makes her way home. And I don't know, I think it is supposed to be the next day, and it's supposed to be like the weekend or something. Haru's mom wakes up late, gets down to the kitchen, and is very shocked to find Haru sitting there reading the newspaper, already has breakfast made and tea, and is just sitting there all dressed and everything ready for the day. And the mom's like, what happened? What's going on? This is not normal. Is like what's going on in my head. And she's like, oh, hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm good. I didn't want to waste the day. I'm going to go spend the day with Hiromi and everything like that. I made breakfast. I made tea. And she goes, and that's my own special blend of tea. It's a little bit different every time, so I can't guarantee the flavor. So Haru is starting to believe in herself more and have much more confidence in that regard. So we see a lot of that there, which is very good for her. And she heads off to go spend the day with Hiromi. And they're walking around the Crossroads Mall area, and Hiromi tells her that, oh, you know, Machida broke up with his girlfriend, and Haru's like, oh, that's too bad. And she's like, wait, aren't you happy about that? And Haru's like, no, I think I'm over my crush on him, or whatever, because it's like Haru now has the crush on the Baron. So as they're, you know, talking and walking around and everything, we actually cut over to where we see Muta is sitting there where, you know, Haru found him the first time, and he's watching them. So he's kind of like, he kind of knows that Haru has a bit more confidence in herself and everything like that. She's becoming a bit more independent in that regard. So we get to see that, which I like. And then that's just where the movie ends. There's no additional things that we get to see or anything like that. I don't know if there's any additional things outside of this that explain what else happens. I mean, I guess it is a little bit less of a threatening version of like what happens in Spirited Away, where Chihiro gets whisked away to the spirit world and everything like that. You know, which was the previous movie in this regard, and then the next one will be Howl's Moving Castle. But I mean, I was trying to figure up if there would be anything that's like indicates that like Haru and the Baron meet again. I mean, like, I like to think that they do at some point in time, that like maybe something else happens and she needs to go get help from the Baron, or she just decides to go and visit the Baron and Muta and Toto and everything like that. That would be nice. Or that maybe she gets to see Yuki and Prince Loon again or something like that. But like, we have the moment before they all left the Cat Kingdom, the king and the prime minister are talking to each other, and the king is just like, I think it's time for me to retire. The prime minister is like, I believe I will join you, sire. So that's all good. So that means that Loon's going to be the king and Yuki's going to be the cat queen and everything like that. So that'll be good there. But yeah, I just like to think that like at some point in time, maybe Haru and the Baron end up meeting again. She goes to the Cat Bureau to see them again because they were her friends and they helped her, and maybe she brings them desserts and that makes Muta happy. And everything like that. But, you know, I just, you know, that's just kind of what I think happens in my personal opinion. So, so in regards to the cast, we have, of course, Anne Hathaway plays Haru. And then, of course, we have Cary Elwes plays Baron Humbert von Gickington. We have Peter Boyle plays Muta / Ronaldo Moon. Peter Boyle would probably be best known as the dad from Everybody Loves Raymond, as Raymond's dad in that. That's about what we get there. Toto is voiced by Elliot Gould. I really don't know what he's been in. I'm sorry, I just don't know. Andrew Bevis plays Prince Loon. I don't know who he is off the top of my head. Judy Greer, who I know she's been in various things, but I can't think of anything specific that she's been in, but I know who she is. She plays Yuki. The Cat King is, of course, played by Tim Curry, which is just great. We have Hiromi is played by Kristen Bell, so, you know, eventually Anna later on, and I believe she's Veronica Mars and everything like that. And then we have Natsuro, who, as I said, in the Japanese dub is played by a woman, and then in this he's turned into a male cat in the English dub, and he's played by Andy Richter, who is, I believe, on Conan, I think. And I don't really recognize any of the other ones, so that's what I have. You know, the prime minister has someone who is played by whoever, and I don't know who that is, and then the mom is played by Christine Sutherland. I don't know. But I love this story. I love how it's designed to just be you know, very, very cute and sweet and everything. And it's like, it's not like a big threatening end of the world type of a thing. It's just the girl does not want to become a cat, and she gets whisked away to the cat world, which is just kind of fun. So that's what I have for this one. As I said, the next one up will be Howl's Moving Castle, which is a longer one, admittedly. So we'll see how long of a video that ends up being. But that's what I have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!